on that same email, I said, I don't know if I can do this and just jump in, blah, blah, blah. Where's Izzy Stradlin?
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 507. My name is Brando. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Jimmy Gnecco. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's nice to talk to you here.
Yeah, likewise. Are you in some sort of bat cave? I usually, if I wasn't doing a podcast, I'm surrounded by darkness as well. I might be a vampire in a previous life, so I don't know
Yeah,
about you.
yeah. This is the recording studio that I have. I've had it for a long time, and yeah, it's home. So yeah, lighting is important for state of mind. So yeah,
Right on. Because if you're watching on our YouTube channel, just I like the aesthetic. Just of one, they're almost very police-like. One red light in the back. Sorry, more terrible jokes to come. So Jimmy from ours, I really appreciate you coming on. And before I forget it, I gotta thank your bandmate Chris for recommending you. He reached out, which is kind of cool. Some people ask how I get my interviews, and there's a variety of ways. And some people reach out and say, "Hey, I know somebody, or I'm part of this band. In this case, he may fit what you're wanting to talk about." And to be honest with you, your name has kind of always been. I have this long list of like a mental list of names. So Jimmy, I'm appreciative. So thank you, Chris. I reached out to you and to talk about New Hours music. And we'll get to because as you can tell by my posters, it's all what I call 6 degrees of GNR bacon. Of course,
hmm
Velvet Revolver is part of that tree, the 6 degrees of separation thing. We'll get into you hanging out with the VR guys. Uh, but I want to kind of start with what's going on with you now because what really enticed me was because yeah, we'll get into when you auditioned or however the whole story for Velvet Revolver. But the new Guns N' Roses drummer, Isaac Carpenter, you've worked with him recently, and he's part of your some of your new music. So I'm kind of
yeah,
eager to talk about that since Isaac is new. So let's get
yeah,
into it.
yeah. It's a good link. I want to I'll be really careful because these are all people that are very dear to me. So I want to be careful that I don't exploit their situation and I speak about them as clearly and lovingly as I can, because I can talk to you all day about Isaac. I've known Isaac for a really long time. We were both signed with DreamWorks going back years ago, and I first heard Isaac in his band Loudermilk, and that whole band. I mean, every each member in the band is really special and talented, and I fell in love with their band right away, and I became an early kind of cheerleader for them, and just wanting the best for them, and just anything I could do or be a part of with them. I really wanted that to be the case. So yeah, the years went on, and um, difficult keeping a band together. So they kind of did all different things, and they went different ways, and it came up a few times to have Isaac come and play. It first came up. We were making the Mercy record with Rick Rubin, and we were up in Rick's house up in Laurel Canyon, the Chili Peppers spot there, where they did Blood, Sugar, Sex, and Magic. And funny enough, it's just always on the search for great drummers, and I've had a real specific thing about drummers as far as the feel, and I've been known to have it's not, I'm very particular about drummers. So,
Okay.
um, and at that time on the Mercy album, we had somebody named Michael Jerome playing drums, who both Isaac and I, all of Loudermilk and all of ours, we loved this drummer because he had played in a band called Pleasure Club with another dear friend of ours, James Hall. And So when it came up that we're going to make the record with Rick and he was going to produce it, I felt like, well, this is my opportunity to kind of have anybody that I wanted. And so Rick really wanted Stephen Perkins, and he came up and played with us one night, and it was pretty amazing. Right away, right out of the gate, he just played all of the right things. And then, but my thought on it was that for better or for worse, whether I was right or wrong, it's debatable. But um, I just felt like I wanted more unknown players to play on the album if I was going to have any special guests. I didn't want it to be a thing about like an all-star kind of, I didn't want to cherry pick the all-stars. I wanted to find people that hadn't really had a break yet and that I really believed in. So there were two
Okay.
people for me on that list, and one was this guy, Michael Jerome, and Isaac was the other. And both, like I said, Isaac and I had so much respect for Michael that when it came up that he could do it, we were both blown away and excited by it. And what happened was our final night of tracking, we had to get out of the house because the Chili Peppers were coming in a day. And I found this out very last minute because very loose the way that things go there sometimes in the world of Rick. Just there's so many moving parts. And so
I can
right
imagine.
yeah, right. A few days before, it was the end of February in 2005, and I got a call, and it's a short month, and I got a call saying, "Hey Jimmy, you've just about finished up. The Chili Peppers have to get in there on the 1st of March," and I just kind of went into shock because we didn't really have all the drums tracked yet. So the final night of tracking, because the drummer also had to leave and go on a tour, we tracked the final song and opened it up the next day to work on it and to listen to what was done and found that the drum tracks were gone. They just disappeared. So the assistant must have copied the backup over the main drive. It was late and must have just gotten confused and copied the wrong one. So
I've been there. It's a nightmare. It's
yeah, so it's just
oh yeah.
blank. And it
Oh,
was a really great performance. So it was kind of crushing. But right away, my brain just went to Isaac's right up over the hill, and he said if we need anything to give him a call. So gave him a call, and he came in right away and crushed it, knocked it out. It turned out that we moved to another studio out in Burbank, and so we ended up having another month to track. And so we were able to line it up to have Michael come back and finish his performance again. But Isaac's was amazing. It would have done just as well, but I just wanted to keep it consistent.
okay.
So that was the first time we had Isaac come out, and then since then I had been, Isaac was always on my wish list of somebody to play with us, and it was just a matter of lining up our schedules and having the budget to have him because he deserves to be paid well. So finally, we were able to have him on a few recordings. I always wanted him to play with us live for years, but yeah, it looks like that's going to be even
Yeah,
over.
that might wait. Yeah, that might be a bit because yeah, um, it's pretty remarkable to see the fan reaction because you never know with a new member just how well he seems to fit in and fans thinking like he's a mix of Adler and Sorum and me, I'm just jealous of those abs, man. Did he always have those abs? Is that his?
Yeah, he's a powerhouse. He's it's for me as a singer, songwriter, and producer, and engineer, and mix engineer, there's certain people who see the big picture, and Isaac just he he can take the reins and do everything just the same himself. He's really the organizer of everything. Often in his world, he's great at it, at bringing everything together, and so that goes across the board with him being in great shape, and he's just a really, really fine-tuned, amazing talent, and he's really worked hard for years, and there's nobody better. for me for years, and we can kind of get into it, but because it's all connected, um, going back to my time spent with Velvet Revolver and um, which we can get into. But for me, my it's all connected. And I can explain more as you ask questions. I don't want to go on too long about it, but Isaac was always the perfect person for that seat, in my opinion. And Duff, I think Duff has always loved him as well. And so I just felt like wait until everybody hears him. I'm excited for everybody to hear him because there's something that happens, and I really like Frank as well. Um, I was happy to hear him play because he could swing and stuff, and that's important with that music. It's important to me that who am I to say, but for the gun stuff, it's like to I've always felt for it to be really sleazy and right,
Mm.
that it kind of needed to be really greasy. And I didn't think that just a straight up rock drummer was the right person for that seat ever. You needed to have some grease in there, um and Isaac has it. He just has that feel, and he's technically able to do anything that I've ever heard a drummer do. But he has the restraint to not, and he's just got such a big, fat, consistent pocket that you feel you feel safe when he's playing. You feel comfortable. He's driving the ship, and you know that the space is there that you want.
Well, I really appreciate that, and then learning about him because I don't know if now he may be untouchable as far as getting an interview, but I digress. And I do want to say this because I think you've got my sense of humor or my corniness. I just told you I'm a dad. I've been saying dad jokes for years now. I have a reason. So I also like Isaac. And this is coming from a non-musician. The aesthetics that I see. He's a short king like myself, right? Like how is he? What is
He,
he, 5? I'm
he's
5'6".
he's
He's a little taller
tiny.
than me.
He's
Okay.
tiny. I'm not sure exactly how tall he is, but is a lot of power in that.
It makes me feel like I could, in another life I could have done that. And
He's
I'll say this real quick because there was a picture of him and Duff, which is very
oh, I mean
tall.
that would be literally.
Right. So I couldn't help but put side by side a picture of that and the poster from Twins,
Mhm.
from Schwarzenegger and DeVito. And somebody
Yeah,
got mad at that. You never know who's going to get mad at something. But
yeah, but yeah, I mean,
I digress.
it, it's kind of the same difference I think between Duff and myself, and then me, and then Isaac. But I can tell you, there's a lot of power, um, and vision and discipline, in that body. He's 10 feet tall when he plays.
Right on. Oh, I love that. So let me get into because of course Isaac's with another band. Let's get into our band. By the way, is that was that always the idea? Because I know it's your brainchild, but do you like referring to it as ours, like our music, like it's kind of like you're sharing it with the audience, or am I overthinking that?
No, that's pretty right. It was a little bit of we're coming out of the 80s, and a lot of the bands, there were these names that um for the rock bands, they were pretty exaggerated names. And I felt that I wanted a name that was more of like a blank canvas, and that the music would really define the name. But the idea was it was a little bit hippie-ish. It was supposed to be that.
Mm.
Um, I felt like the songs that I had begun to write at that point with that group, that I was really pulling from everybody's experiences around me, and I felt like I was really pulling from the human condition, and that was when I felt like the songs tapped into that timeless kind of thing of our struggles, our hopes, our fears, that it made us all connected, and I just felt like there was this bit of an idea that um so everybody's story is that I knew in my life was kind of making its way into the songs, and even though they felt personal because of the way that I would take on the emotion. It was actually somebody else's story I was singing about. It wasn't always me. There's been a lot of misconception through the years about it, about that I had been really much darker and more depressed than I ever was. And my first album was was written and recorded during one of the most beautiful times of my life when my children were young, and it's a really great time. And so I was very happy. I was calm, centered. Um,
Hmm.
I not much anger, but I was able to pull from all these things and observe it and write about it. And so it did make its way into the music, but that's really the idea of ours. It wasn't necessarily so much that of what of what it's become, what the band and the brand has become, which is basically we're kind of on an island unto ourselves, for better or for worse. We never fit into any real genre, and that's been it's it was my goal, but it's a difficult road when you do that because you don't get the masses all at once from a specific genre that
Hmm.
will buy into or can relate sometimes to what you're doing. So it's a longer road of kind of, okay, well, this record's maybe a little bit more um, ethereal, so we're kind of getting maybe more of the Floyd crowd or the thinkers or the smokers, and then this one's a little bit harder hitting, and then we're getting the rock crowd there, and this one's maybe a little more sophisticated. So the music really varies like that. So we never stay in one specific place other than it's all an arc, the albums and the set. It's about kind of trying to hit each emotion, but not trying to not repeat any one emotion or song. Um, like a song that would be the same kind of sounds and the same approach. We try not to do that repeatedly in a set. It's like, okay, if that one really sounded militant and driving, then we've already hit our point with that song, and then we move on to the next scene. If we don't keep that up to drive like 10, we're not, and nothing wrong with these kinds of bands, but we're not like a Rage Against the Machine. That is, by the way, one of the most powerful shows I've ever seen in my life. But we don't deliver that kind of thing song after song, or like an AC/DC that delivers that kind of thing. And I love those bands and that kind of music. But for us, I just always wanted it to be more like just open. That's all. Just
Like a journey, like life is. You're not
yeah,
always, raw, you're not always metal all the time. You're not always ballady all the time. So that's why I do enjoy Hour's music and that kind of style of, for lack of a better term, rock. But it's good for your creativity and creatively. But sometimes you hear from marketing people like, I don't know how to sell that. They need it to be a specific thing. But then you're kind of hindering your creativity, and you can't be yourself because you have to be put in this pigeon. You're being pigeonholed. You're put in this box or this box. You're this kind of rock or this kind of music. So you've been doing your thing for quite some time, which is awesome. So what's the latest that you and I did invite Chris Mercer to be our co-host for today, but he just wanted me. I don't know. He passed. I don't know if he's microphone shy or anything like that. But I just wanted to
yeah,
again give another shout out. So what are you guys working on now? Because if you go to your website or your Facebook, there's a lot of new music out from
yeah,
late
yeah.
last year and even like recently. This year, Rocket's Red Glare from January. So what's the latest from ours?
Well, um,
The
it's
most recent, can you say like?
sure. Yeah, the most recent, I can kind of sum up the last few because I put out a lot in the last about year or so, and it's two albums and one EP. Um, One is called New Age Heroine, and that is a little bit more emotional kind of um, at times romantic, dark, and there's some tenderness there, and on that album. And then it continues a bit. We put this EP out that would kind of follow it up, almost like a like we're doing an encore live. And so it has a few more songs in it that are kind of connected to that, but that also then transition us into the Rockets Red Glare album, which is way more high energy. It doesn't, it only dips down a couple times. And that, because like I said, I do a lot of dynamic things. I've always been really, and this is not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just my own personal goals. I just never wanted to be all one thing, all rock.
Mm.
Um, as much as I love rock and roll and that stuff, it just never felt right to me. I felt like if I did that, I would kind of get bored. So, but I did feel over the last few years that it was important for cohesiveness to put more of the up-tempo kind of rock and roll songs in one collection and not go down too much because I'll do 5 6 minute song with just piano and it'll be really dark and emotional and I just for Rockets Red Glare, which would be the most recent one, and it's difficult to tell what anybody um, listening to this what they would gravitate towards, if any. But the Rockets Red Glare is more of
Don't
the
say if any. Of course they would.
that's the more high energy, I would say urgent one, more than I would say a genre. There's a lot of urgency to it, um, and there's a lot of energy and urgency to it. So um, that's been the trick over the years, just finding ways to make cohesive albums because to go from there are times when I am really animated with intensity and it could feel like summoning some sort of anger or something. And then, then there's these really beautiful songs. So that those emotions are real in me and they exist, but creatively to tell that story, sometimes it gets a little manic and disjointed to go from such angst to then so much beauty unless it's really carefully done, and the transition feels natural or so Rockets the last few albums that we've put out, Ballet of the Boxer, New Age Heroine, Encore, and Rockets Red Glare all feel very cohesive to me as far as an overall feeling that's tied together. So yeah, there's a lot of energy on Rockets.
And that's a lot of music, and I think that's awesome. Just like because again, coming from the band that I centered this podcast around, new music is it's hard to come by. So
Yeah.
I'd love to see it come out, and it's awesome. Again, it's a roller coaster. It's not all one thing, but it's you. And don't just say if any, because I'll give a shout out to one of my listeners, Jonathan Wilson, that said loved Hours for years, great band. So you're you're not alone here, and also this could be a good segue. Jeremy Morris, when I said you were coming on, when I posted this on my social media, I said, that you were considered. I mean, I don't know the whole story. Maybe this is a good place you can tell us now for Velvet Revolver that you would have been a great choice. And I had told you when I first scheduled this, why your name has always been in my mental list. Since I work for iHeart, I have a Getty Images account. Obviously, I'm always looking for GNR stuff. So I see a lot, your name pop up a lot when I see Camp Freddy. So because you're from Jersey, right? How did this kid from Jersey start playing with Slash and Duff and possibly considered for Velvet Revolver? How did that, how did that happen? What's the story there?
Well, it goes back to I've had through the time with ours, I've had the wonderful um, blessings to have so many people reach out to me um, about potentially singing for their band, but they've all been kind of after a great singer, mostly passed on, you know.
Mm,
So through the years, I've been in talks with In Excess, with one of the guys, Gary Beers from In Excess, and we very briefly, right as I was starting Mercy, were I started to listen to ideas that he had and that they were working on, and that would have been very, very difficult. I don't see. Here's the thing, like with Velvet, it goes back in a sense before Wyland. Just when they were looking for people, my name was thrown in the hat. It's just one of those things, you know.
hmm
Um, it wasn't. It wasn't that much more developed or than that. It was just an idea came up for me to do it, and I was just starting the album. I think at that time we were kind of getting into it with Rick, so it was just bad timing. Um, but in excess, I had gotten asked about Alice in Chains at one time if I would just be interested. It wasn't that they wanted me. It was just a question to see if I would be into doing it. Um, and then this came up, and the timing was just bad for me
hmm
with to go down by when they were starting Velvet Revolver. And then some time went by, and when they were having some issues, they reached out again. Their manager reached out this time. I think it was the same guy who reached out the first time to see if I would be interested in auditioning. And he asked me, see, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you my side
Okay.
of the whole thing.
That's all I can ask for.
I'm sure they have their side of it, and it's not anything bad, but um, from my standpoint, what was happening was they had a bunch of things booked still, and they were kind of falling apart, and they were looking to see if somebody could jump in to to fill the slot to go out and do it. And I just thought that for me, that was kind of suicide to do that, pardon
Mm,
the term, but career suicide. Um, because here's the thing, I know that vocally I could do it. Yeah, I can sing those ranges and then some. Um, Whether that's good or bad, my range is technically a lot higher than Scott's when I would want it to be, and the low stuff I could very easily do. So it would make sense that I could do it, but it was always my feeling that it's a tough crowd. It's a
mm.
tough crowd, and if you know anybody that's listening right now that loves guns, um, you know, they know what they want, and they're a tough crowd. And yes, I know I could have pulled it off, but to be thrown in like that when people were expecting Wyland, um, I didn't. I honestly didn't want to do that. It was a combination. I didn't want to do that to the fans, and um, even though, like I said, I knew I can go in and sing the songs, I just felt like that's not something I want to get involved in that way. I never worried about people not liking my music. It was always, I'll, I'm going to make the music that I want to make. I'm going to make it the best way that I can. And once it got there, I was never concerned with any press. The first few records, I never read anything, good or
Mhm.
bad. I was not concerned at all. And this all of a sudden brought up a whole different side of things that I would have to look at because I'm walking into a situation where, you know, it's I'm gonna
The press would be there.
yeah, and I'm
You
gonna
couldn't avoid it.
really yeah, and I want to do the right thing. I'd want to do the right thing by the fans. I'd want to do the right thing by the band, and it was going to be one of those really difficult things to pull off that way. So I just felt like I don't want to, and this is a great part of the story, and this is what I was saying. I don't want to just come in and no disres it wasn't disrespect to Scott, it was actually respect to him. I don't want to just come in and try to do karaoke. Um, I don't think it's going to work, even though I could sing the songs. It's going to let people down, and they're going to really hate me. And I'm not trying to get involved in any of that. I have my own thing going, and I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to be a rock star like that for the sake of just doing it. It didn't. So I know that many other people would be like, "Are you crazy? Why wouldn't you right away jump at it?" And it still doesn't mean that they would have liked it if I
Mm,
did. But why I wasn't aggressively jumping at it because I just thought it through a little bit more than,
mm,
wow, this is a great opportunity. It was like, is it really a great opportunity? So, um, for any of us. And so I kind of let it go cold a bit.
mm.
And and the manager at the time, I think I saw the email. I think it was like, Jimmy, you're a great artist, great voice, but to say that wouldn't want to jump in and just sing these songs, they have this hit and this hit, that's kind of like spitting in people's faces. And I felt like, oh wow, that's not how I meant it at all. It was the opposite. So, but I just let it go. And then some more time went by, and not too much more time, but I still wanted to just get into a room with them. It was my hope to get into a room with the band and Isaac Carpenter or
Wow.
Michael
Mm,
Jerome. I wanted,
okay.
and it's no disrespect to to anyone else. It's just I wanted to do something new. Um, and I
I
was
see.
so my thought was we're not we're not up against like these Velvet Revolver songs. I couldn't let go of how great Appetite for Destruction is. I couldn't let it go in my mind. And I just felt
Mhm.
like if
A
we're
lot
gonna
of fans
do
that way.
anything. Oh, so here's what happened. On that same email, I said, um, I don't know if I can do this and just jump in, blah, blah, blah. Where's Izzy Stradlin? That's
May-
exact that was the
may-
exact email.
Maybe if he joined the band or
I
did
well
something.
that was the thing because I felt like if we're gonna do this, don't I don't want to be, and again, no disrespect, but I just felt like I, I'm not trying to. It's not even compete because music shouldn't be a competition, but it needs to be as great as Appetite for Destruction if we're gonna do something. So I started to put the pieces together, and I'm just looking at how much Izzy wrote and how much he was a part of that. I know I write a ton, but I wasn't coming with an ego to say, oh yeah, I can write a bunch with you and I can do it. I just wanted to make sure that we were going to have the same shot at being
Mm.
as great as Appetite for Destruction. So I felt like there's one more piece there. So if we get Izzy and then we get Isaac or Michael who can really swing and really greasy, then we'll kind of be back on track for a rock and roll band. I didn't want to be a rock band with them. I wanted to be
Mm.
like a real rock and roll band. And I just felt like we
Interesting.
needed Isaac or Michael and Izzy. Or one other idea I had was to bring another dear friend of mine, James Holland, who's a great singer and an amazing songwriter, to bring him in as well. And maybe we would have two singers, and but the song level would be elevated a lot. So that's what I was hoping for. It wasn't like I said, I wasn't looking at it like, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to go up and do the moves and be a rock star. It was, can we write amazing songs? Can we all be hungry enough to remember what it's like to need to write great songs? Can we find that place together? And so that was my first thought. It kind of went cold. And then we came together again in New York City for a benefit. My these dear friends of mine who have an organization called Road Recovery. Um,
Sure.
yeah, they're my managers going back for years and like family to me. They were doing were doing these shows in New York and um, I'm family, so I was on the shows, and it kind of came up. I think the first one with Tom Morello and Perry was on it, and Jerry Cantrell, and the amazing Wayne Kramer, who we all loved very much. Um,
Oh, for MC5, of course.
yeah, um, they were all on it, and Carl Restivo had asked me to do if I would jump up with them on Paradise City, and I was kind of like, it's not really my zone. Like I can do something a little more angry. I'm not sure if I can do Paradise City, but I jumped up, and so that was the first time, and I was just kind of sharing a microphone with Perry Farrell, Etty Farrell, and we were just kind of doing, backgrounds. It was, we are just kind of gang vocals there. But then the next Road Recovery event came around and it came up again. They were asking if I would do a few songs with them. And so I kind of felt like, oh yeah, this is the time because I didn't let it go. As much as
Mm.
I didn't feel like jumping in was a great idea, I didn't let go of the idea because I did think that together, um, and that whole group, Dave, Duff, Slash, like I really liked the way that they sounded, and um, I thought that we could do something together. So I was still holding on to it in the back of my mind, and so they asked me if I would do the songs, and I said definitely, and I went to rehearsal the night before, and then they never asked me to do any songs with them. And I felt like, that's kind of sucks. Um, and maybe I was going to do Hey Joe with Slash. And I said, sure, I'll do that. But we were talking about doing, um, is it Slither? Slither?
Sure.
What?
That's a Velvet song. Yeah, but Slither.
Slither?
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
Slither.
that and
Guns does it now.
yeah, yeah. I heard them do that at one point. And it's so easy.
Hmm.
And so it didn't really pan out. So I said, okay, well, I won't learn them then exactly. And then during sound check, it was just awesome. Like we were, I think I maybe did Hey Joe or I don't even know if I don't even know, to tell you the truth, if they had me doing it. But when I ran into them in soundcheck, I said, hey, I kind of know those songs if you guys want to do them. And then Duff was kind of wrangling everybody and saying, hey, he knows them if you want to do them. Because Duff, I think, was pulling for me on a few
Mm.
occasions with it. And yes. I think if you I could be speaking out of school here, but if you want, the most amount of dirt that I can give you
I, I don't want dirt in it. I'm not the kind of
in
person. I
this
mean, I appreciate the story. I just want to. I
is
always
is that I don't think that Matt liked me
okay.
early on, and I think that Duff was pulling for me before that, and I don't think Matt liked me. So um, that's maybe why they weren't enthusiastic about it together. And then so at that point, Duff was like. And it wasn't personal. It wasn't anything personal about Matt. I just think that he didn't know that I could sing the way that I did. I think he thought that I was a little bit more like something else. Um,
Okay.
um, so then, yeah, Duff was really pulling for it, and luckily he pulled it together that night, convinced everybody for me to jump in, and I did it. And I was cramming right before the show, just like learning all the lyrics, and luckily they did have a teleprompter, so it's just kind of like, okay, we'll make sure I know the arrangements. It's going to be there in case I need it. I did it in sound check with the teleprompter, and it seemed to work. And yeah, so that was basically it. And then after that point, I was kind of pushing them a tiny bit to say, we're gonna do this. I think we can do this. Um, but I think at that point it was already too fractured.
Okay.
So it wasn't necessarily the stories out there maybe like that. I had been given these opportunities and I said no to them. It's not that simple. It's not. I don't
It
want.
never is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to ever come across disrespectful to them like that, where they wanted me to do it and I was, felt like I was too good for it. It was nothing at all like that. I just wanted it to be great. And just getting everybody in the same mindset, at the same time, everybody's lives. And Slash had a lot going on with his solo stuff. It was really doing well for him. And that particular vehicle for him, it felt positive, and he was able to do these songs that he hadn't been able to do in a long time because Miles can really crush them. So I think he was happy doing that. And ultimately, what I felt in talking to them, honestly, I don't, I may have even written it in an email to them saying, "Are you guys sure you can't work it out with Axel?" I think that was my last email. And
I
then,
appreciate you're saying that as like a fan too. I could
yeah,
tell.
yeah, totally. Because I wanted them back together. If anything, I just wanted it to be great. I wanted it to be great as much as everybody else that loved them wanted it to be. And so that's, as far as my history with them, that's the bottom line, is that I just wanted it to be great. Um, and I didn't want to be a joke. So
That's cool. I really appreciate that story. I wasn't aware of it. I mean, like again, on the surface of you being considered, that's nothing, compared. And I completely understand. It's kind of a cool tie to the last episode that I did previous with Austin John Winkler from he was a former frontman from Hinder. He was
mhm.
also considered for it, and he said he sang a few songs with them, but he said that his heart probably wasn't in it as much as it should have been because there was a certain creativity and time in his life and it just didn't work out. He's like, I love those guys. It was what a moment in an opportunity that it was, but you know what? It
Yeah,
wasn't right. It wasn't right. And
yeah,
this sounds, obviously not the same story, but it's kind of a similar theme that it wasn't right. But I think it's fun for fans that now I can kind of have this it's fun. It's kind of like a fantasy sports visual. I'm just mentally picturing, oh, what if this actually happened? What if,
yeah,
Jimmy led this kind of pseudo Guns N' Roses, come, incarnation, this new kind of band. That's just fun to think about. But
yeah.
maybe if
I
the multiverse theory is right, it's happening somewhere.
yes, I really liked Hinder. I didn't know that he sang with them as well and tried. Also, my friend, I love dearly Royston. Royston from Space Hug.
Yes. I don't know. He has not been on the show.
He
But yeah.
also went and sang with them a bit.
It's
And
cool to learn these things.
yeah, he and I exchanged some great stories about it when 'cause we toured together, just acoustically. We each played acoustically and we did a
Well,
tour,
that's cool.
and we were exchanging stories about it. So
It would have been really, I can only imagine. I mean, it's a badge of honor. It's a small group of those who tried out for Velvet Revolver. I think it is very cool. I spoke to, this was a few years ago, Mina, now Keith Caputo, sent in an audition tape, and you never know, but
yeah,
it's again, it's just a cool thing to talk about, and you coming from a fan and wanting to work with these people, but again, other timeline. We are where we are now. So,
yeah.
um,
I'm
I,
still open to it as
well,
long as we can make it great.
hey man, I love that making it great and the vision. So, uh, again, we spoke about what the current. So, what's the best way that I think? Because I guess if I wanted to keep this as far as my advice, if people want to Google hours, it might be better to Google Jimmy Gnecco because just the word hours or hours music. Um, I don't know if do you hear Baby Brownstone back there? Did you hear him scream just now? I'm just
No,
curious. Really? That's great. There was a toddler. He's just turned 2 and he's like way more vocal, repeating things, and he's playing with one of my brothers back there, and I'm just knocking blocks over. I'm like, I don't know what's being picked up by the
Uh,
microphone, so nothing.
not at all.
Oh man, I love that. So I'm hoping next time if we get to do this again, he'll be my little co-host. He'll hang out with me and he'll ask you some questions.
That'd be cool.
So I appreciate you taking the time because you're off to Europe. So
Yeah.
what's the plan now? Where can we what's next for Jimmy now that we have this music out available? It's obviously you're touring France, you're touring the UK.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I'm gonna do some solo dates just acoustically. It's difficult to keep the full band going on, especially into Europe and stuff. It's difficult right now. So I'm gonna head over on my own and play a bunch of shows, get our music out to the people over there, and yeah, just try to spread the music as much as I can. My labels never put the Hours albums out overseas, which makes no sense to me. So I decided a few years ago to just, as challenging as it might be, without any sort of support or anything, I decided that I'm going to just go do it on my own. And if I get
Mm.
them one at a time, then that's what I do. So I'm going to do that first. And I've also been singing the the one thing that I have said yes to of all the bands who've asked me to sing with them because it made the most sense. Singing with this project called Humanist from the UK. A guy named Rob Marshall. It's his baby, and him and the drummer Scott have been doing it for a long time. And basically, he has on his albums he has all different singers sing, and he's had like Mark Lanigan and Dave Gahan
Mm.
and Ed Harcourt, Ron Sexsmith. Um, a lot of great singers on both albums. And um, just last year, they were heading out to tour with Depeche Mode, and they asked me if I would join them and come sing with them. So I jumped
Awesome.
in, and I've been having a blast doing it. It's interesting because it's not like I don't have to go up there and execute one singer's stuff. It's a cool challenge because I have to take all these different singers and bring it into a space, and it ends up becoming our own thing as a result. And I've been having a good time doing that. So I'll go over there and do a run of dates with them through like Germany and France and in the UK. And then I'll come back, do a run through the States like, solo, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna pick up. Humanist is going to pick up with Black Rebel Motorcycle Club and do a run of dates opening for them in October, which is really awesome.
Good stuff. So yeah, if you want to go to hours.net, you can see the dates in France and Italy and the UK. And I look forward to seeing the dates. And if you're around the city or Long Island, my guy, I don't want to get his attention now because he's being good. He's got the long hair. He's got to be my concert buddy. So I got to start taking him to shows.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
there's
hope to
fun.
see you out and about, Jimmy.
That'd be great. Thanks
Well,
for taking the time to talk to me, Brando.
hey, no, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a flight, hopefully not an early flight. I hope it didn't prevent you from
No,
getting some beauty
no,
sleep.
I,
Okay,
I
good.
try not to. I try not to ever do those if I can help it.
Now my wife, whenever we got to get there early, and I hate it, but whatever. That's another story for another time. So, thank you, Jimmy. That does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. When will you see the next one? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.